I'm gonna tell you right now, man. They throw this word democracy around. They throw this word democracy around. Democracy. I don't want to hear that word no more, man. After this stuff that they pulling with these pardons. I was watching Good Morning America this morning, and I heard them use a term I've never heard before. It's called a preemptive pardon. Preemptive pardon. This is a pardon where they pardoning people and they haven't even been charged with anything yet. Joe Biden, in the last hours of his presidency, he snuck in preemptive pardons for his family members that haven't even been charged with anything yet. So that means if they charged with something, they can't be charged with anything. I've never heard of that. That makes a person invincible. If a person can be just told that they're pardoned before they even are charged with the crime, I thought you had to be charged with the crime, and then after you charged with the crime, you can get a pardon. After you're convicted, you can get a pardon. But they giving out pardons to people before they even charged. What kind of stuff is that?
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Mr. President, do you have any reaction to the pardons President Biden did at the last minute?
Well, I'm not going to discuss it now. I think it was unfortunate that he did that. We won't discuss it now. There's plenty of time to discuss it.
At 11:41 today, Judge, Joe Biden pardoned many of his family members, preemptive pardons. This is in addition to all the other pardons he had done around 11 a.m. And it's my contention, my belief that President Trump didn't know about these because they announced them after he had already walked into the rotunda. And it is quite brazen. And I think Democrats are going to have a hard time answering it. So let's start with you, and then we'll see how Harold does.
Well, it's very interesting, and to me it was stunning, although there's certainly been rumors about this, that Joe Biden decides that he's going to pardon pretty much all of his family, you know, the members, Harold, of the Biden crime syndicate, his
crime syndicate,
and his son, and I think some in-laws, Mark Milley, Anthony Fauci, preemptive pardon. Meaning they aren't charged with anything, but we're going to tie the hands of the next attorney general to make sure that she, does not indict anyone. But I think what's so stunning is that the justification for this, Dana, where the statement from the Biden White House was, these people do not deserve to be targets of unjustified and politically motivated prosecutions. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. The only people who have been victims of unjustified and politically motivated prosecutions are the Republicans who have suffered at the hands of a weaponized Biden Justice Department. And they then add that these pardons shouldn't be mistaken as an acknowledgement that they've engaged in any wrongdoing. And yet the same Biden administration is objecting to any pardoning of the J6 hostages by saying that, well, if Trump gives them a pardon, it's got to be an admission of guilt. I mean, it's typical hypocrisy that and I'm sure most of America will be happy to get rid of going forward because we don't have to deal with that hypocrisy anymore. But the shame of this is that it is a recognition that that there is and was a possibility of, based on James Comer alone, there was enough evidence to indict based upon what he uncovered, but James Comer didn't have access to Merrick Garland's Department of Justice. So the evidence is there. They knew it. They have to stop it from the next attorney general.
Harold, how will Democrats defend this, or they hope it just goes away?
Well, I don't think Democrats will have to defend. I think President Biden will. This power that the president has, and every president has it while in office, to pardon people, is the most sweeping authority, the most unchecked authority, because you can't reverse it.
Yeah.
The only thing that can reverse it is if the people commit another crime. The real precedent here, I think the January 6th comparison, there will be those if President Biden, or President Trump rather, pardons some of the January 6th or all of them, there will be people saying, well, you should not have pardoned your family. I think the real precedent here, Judge, is that these are pre-pardons.
Yep, preemptive,
And
absolutely.
basically what happens is you set a precedent for every president to perhaps give a pre-pardon to friends or family or those he's close to. I think the insult to injury around this one is that President Biden, when he was asked repeatedly, will you pardon your son Hunter, he said no. Then he decided at the last minute to do it, which was fine if you just said, hey, I'm going to pardon my son. But when you add to it, he's been prosecuted selectively, or he was singled out, I think that's what gave people a little bit of a bad taste. I've gotten a lot of texts today, when Dana and I were on this morning, from Democrat, Republican friends alike, who did not like this, thought it would leave a bad taste in the mouths of people. Now, sometimes you eat something you don't like, and the taste goes away once you eat something you do like. So maybe people will forget this. I think the real thing here is the precedent. Do you now say to presidents, when you're leaving office, you can pre-pardon or precondition pardons for friends and for family if you think they may be singled out for some reason by the next administration? I hope that's not the precedent, but I think...
Yeah, it's the precedent that's being set, man. That's right, man. I mean, this is crazy, man. Like, they talk about, all they do is talk about in this country is truth, is justice, and it gives immunity to people. It sets a bad precedent. That means there's certain people, it acknowledges that there are special select people that are above the law. They're above the law, man. I mean, this is bad, man.
That, to me, Judge, that stands out more than anything else.
Jesse, there was, I mean, you covered it quite a bit in terms of James Biden and Hunter Biden were quite simpatico.
Right, and any investigation was blocked into the family at all corners. And so it looks really suspicious to preemptively do that, and it looks slimy. And to go out in the final hours issuing pardons to your entire family just looks disgusting.
With 19 minutes to go.
It's so dirty and just the perfect ending to the Biden administration. Fauci's pardon's bizarre because it's backdated to 2014. And in 2014, that's when he began the gain of function research.
Right.
Which leads me to believe maybe COVID-19 was a Fauci baby. We already know he trained the people in China on how to do gain of function. We knew he funded that lab, but this specific strain, that leads me to believe that there's something more to uncover. It makes me highly suspicious. I don't get Milley. I don't understand why all of a sudden he gets a pardon, Cheney, Kinzinger, and I need to know whether they lobbied for these pardons, because that's important, or if any money changed hands, because you know the Biden family's very easy to bribe.
Greg Gutfeld.
Well, first of all, he pardoned 5 family members, 4 of whom we've never really even heard of. So that was to make it appear that he was not protecting one. It was like, I'm doing all these people, but it was really about his brother.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like that episode of Murder, She Wrote, where this guy poisons a bunch of people, so it's not like he just poisoned his wife, so then it throws the scent off him. You remember that episode?
That was like Law and Order, too.
Yeah, it was Law and Order. They just assumed that would throw us off the stench. But you're right. It does stink. This isn't a bad look. This is scummy. The final act of a scoundrel is literally a stink bomb thrown as you exit the building. And, accepting the pardon, is that accepting guilt? I say yes. I really do. And is Adam Kinzinger going to refuse the pardon because he said he didn't want one? And I do think that regardless of pardons, you still investigate. It doesn't say you can't investigate, especially with Fauci. I mean, you know what? If you can't throw him in jail, at least make it so that he's forever known for what he did. And that's the same thing with the Jan 6 committee. Maybe they won't go to jail, but we got to find out exactly what they knew and what they hid.
So Rand Paul could bring Fauci in.
Yeah, why
testify,
not? Yeah.
And he
And he
has to
should.
talk, right?
Yeah.
He has to talk.
Yes.
And he has no reason
Can't
not to.
claim the
He's
fifth.
pardoned.
Right.
Yeah, there's no fifth anymore.
Right.
Reporting on President Biden's pardoning of his family members. It happened officially in the last 15 minutes.
Crazy.
President Trump was meeting with President Biden at the White House and then took that drive. Did he know by the time he got to that stage that Biden had pardoned?
Yeah, man. Hopefully, man, they do an investigation. I hope so, because we need to hear the truth. We need,
his family members?
I didn't ask him about exactly when he knew, but really, this is President Trump's day. Anything for Joe Biden to do that, I thought that was nonsense. We've had 4 years of disaster with Joe Biden. Now let's get back to success, and that's what we started doing.
And so the signings, they're already happening, right?
So the president started signing some things there in the Capitol, and then he'll be heading over to the Cap One Arena, downtown Washington. There'll be some additional signings, and then some of the bigger ones that have been talked about, that'll happen at the White House a little bit later today. So actually, it'll be 3 different sets of signings that the president will do it. We've never seen this happen this fast before, but that's Trump time.
Trump don't play, boy. He said 3 sessions of signings. 1 session he signed in the Capitol. The second session he signed at the Capital One Arena where they did the parade. And the third session he signed at the White House in his office. This guy, man, like I said, man, Trump, he coming out swinging, bro. He coming out swinging. I've never seen a president. I've seen quite a few presidents in my lifetime. I've never seen any come out like swinging like this.
Let me ask you one more question. He talked about North Carolina specifically, and he talked about California specifically. We understand he's going to go to California on Friday. What is going to look different at this point with his involvement?
Well, first, when he steps in, I can't speak on behalf of the president on this one because obviously they have the government now is an official government, but the president's going to be responsive to it right away. I think it's absolutely shameful. Joe Biden's handling, as we saw with North Carolina, that the president referenced. Same thing with California.
Fred Hume, just to bring you back into this conversation as we're talking about the pardons and other thoughts of the day as we're digesting all that's happening.
Well, I think the pardons are a big story today, and I think waiting till, 11:45 before he issued these final ones was in part to avoid them becoming the big story of the day, but there's no getting around it. This is extraordinary, and the president can protest the outgoing president can protest all he wants about how he's afraid of retribution from Donald Trump and the dishonest Justice Department. But in the end, people are going to look at those pardons and they're going to say, well, there must be something wrong there, something legal that they're afraid of, or he wouldn't have pardoned all these people. And I think, it's hard to analyze this. We can't see any prosecutions, so we'll probably never know whether there could have been any. But it shows you how deeply divided the country is, how so badly divided the country is that as an outgoing administration leaves, its leaders think that people who were either part of their cause, part of their side, or went along with it, might be prosecuted. That's a bad place for a country to be in, and let's hope this doesn't have to happen again.
Click here to subscribe.
Biden, bro. Good riddance to Biden, bro. I mean, you got to give it to him. I take my hat off to Biden. I give him this much. He's been a freaking train wreck consistently. All from the beginning, all the way to the end.